All right, everybody, I'm back. I had to put a 42 RLE transmission in this Jeep behind me. And the requirements of doing this, of course, you want to replace the trans cooler. But I went to go tear the grill out of this thing and look at what they've already got. And I was like, I've got to make a talking points on this. This is just insane. This thing is a glorified power steering pump cooler. Should never, and I repeat, never be considered a transmission cooler. It's probably would burn their transmission up. So here is the transmission cooler. This is not what anybody should consider to be a transmission cooler. It's two passes and it's not adequate enough to cool the fluid. And I will show you what the other one should look like. So this is the cooler that you need to put. Look how many passes there are in this. So count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 passes through the fins. And how they measure heat is how many cooling fins per square inch. And that's how they measure how much heat that thing will handle. This is a really good size. And this is what they call an air to liquid, because air goes through it and it pulls the heat off the core, and then it allows the temperature to drop. But this is the one you want to put in. At least this particular size, and then it comes with the hardware to mount it. Okay, so here they are in comparison. Look here. Look at the size of this one. And look at what he had on here. Look, I'm gonna put them side by side and take a... Now look at that. That is not sufficient for a transmission cooler. Okay, so the clamps I used on the Jeep weren't the typical screw clamp. And what that means is this center right here, it's like a worm gear, and you turn it and it rides on these little grooves. Well, after a period of time, the head starts to back out and it will spin backwards and start loosening up. The better alternative is to use the fuel injection clamps. It's a band with a screw going through it and a nut on the end. See? And as it tightens, it really has a harder time to back off because the pressure isn't on the band itself right here with the screw. See? Let me see if I can get a better view. So as this screws in, it tightens up the band. That's why it's got little teeth in it. Well, this one here, if you notice, it's a solid. It's solid all the way around. All the pressure is on the outside ears where the bolt or screw, whatever, goes through. Always try to, use that type of clamp. It's just a better clamp all the way around. If these types of clamps were so great, the OEs would be using them on everything, and they don't. They're very selective where they put them at. And that would back off. That would never be considered for high pressure. These are, but still, it's the better alternative. If you can spring for the money, do it. But that's what we used on the Jeep project with the cooler. Okay, so here's the finished product. I left these two coming in just to show you where they were, the orientation. They come through the side of the radiator. And that's what I did. So I routed the hoses down. If you can see how I did that real quick right there. See how I did it? I brought it over and it's over top of the sway bar. Right here's the sway bar. And then I attached them to the metal lines. Zip tied it to the body so they won't vibrate around. And I could have got all fancy with mounting this thing, but I felt there's 2 tabs here and here. And I just zip tied it, just kept it simple. The zip ties will hold it and if you look, it's you got space in behind it. Nothing's rubbing. See my finger? And even down inside this cavity, nothing's rubbing the radiator. Even if it bounces around, it'll move. But now, I wanted to show before I put the grill back in this thing where it's going to sit. I got a dead center. Now, for the people who are going to say zip ties, hard mount that thing. Well, yeah, I could spend a lot of time trying to find some type of nylon clamp and find fasteners and bolts, but think about it. If the bolts fall down, it's going to be in your radiator too, or the condenser in this case. Zip ties, unless that thing just, gets tugged on stupid hard, it's actually going to break the tabs, because these are part of that plastic. It's going to break them before it's going to break the zip ties, probably, but who knows. But got to push this back in. Put that right there, put that right back there where it was. And when I put the grill back in, that's what it looks like, the finished product. And this is on I think this thing's a 20, I think it's a 2005, I think. I don't even know. Let's look here. It is a Sahara Wrangler Unlimited. But I don't even know. Let's see here. No ejections. 2010. All right. And it's a 3.8. But I know you guys with your Wranglers are serious guys, so that's a nice little tip to upgrade. So just remember, anytime you're dealing with coolers, the size does matter, because the amount of heat that it can take off of the fluid passing through it, it's a big deal. But these small ones like this, just to try to put, in a small cavity to save space and area, that's not good. Try to make more room to fit the bigger product. And always remember, air's being pushed through this thing while moving. Fans on the other side pulling is really the best way and the most efficient way to cool down a radiator or any type of condenser, anything that you need to have air pass through it. Just remember, I'm just an honest man trying to run an honest business.